Hi, my name is Orion Ning, and today I'd like to talk about my work with Ben Safdi on probing the axion-electron coupling with NuSTAR observations of galaxies. This is going to primarily be a paper that continues the exploration into how axions can be produced en masse from the galactic stellar populations, and how this can put constraints on various axion couplings. This idea was first explored in our previous work, where we examined the M82 and M87 galaxies for axion emission mediated via the axion-photon coupling. These galaxies have advantages for axion searches. M82 is a young prototypical starburst galaxy with many young hot stars, and M87 is a massive elliptical nestled in the large extended magnetic fields of the Virgo cluster. The basic search for axions and axion-like particles that was conducted in this past work can be illustrated in the figure here. Very briefly, axions are produced via the Primakov process mediated by the axion-photon coupling in our ensemble of stars in M82 or M87, and then these axions convert to hard X-rays in the galactic or cluster magnetic fields, ultimately resulting in detectable X-ray photons that we search for with the NuSTAR telescope. The non-detection of axion signals allowed us to set a constraint on the axion-photon coupling with an upper limit of around 6.4 times 10 to the minus 13 inverse GeV. In this work, we compose a variation on this theme by instead examining production mechanisms for axions that only rely on the axion-electron coupling. Shown here are terms in the ultralight axion EFT, where the second term illustrates how axions can generically couple to electrons. While the exact relation between the axion-photon and axion-electron coupling is model-dependent, generally UV completions of the axion, which have a non-zero axion-photon coupling, should also have some non-zero axion-electron coupling. Thus, our new work is highly complementary to our previous work. So, the main axion production mechanisms of interest here include electron bremsstrahlung, dominated mostly by electron scattering with ions, and then Compton scattering emission, which actually ends up dominating when averaged over the full stellar population. Since our production of axions now depend on GaEE, and since we are still relying on efficient conversion of axions to photons in the magnetic fields of our galaxies, we will probe and be sensitive to the combined axion-electron and axion-photon coupling combination GaEE times Ga gamma gamma. Additionally, new in this work is our additional analysis of the nearby M31 galaxy, as well as the additional population of white dwarfs in our galaxy, which can produce axions via bremsstrahlung. Just like our previous work, there are two primary ingredients in our signal modeling which go into the analysis. The first is the axion luminosity over our entire stellar populations, for both axion-electron mediated processes we consider. Here we show the axion luminosity breakdown by stellar type as well as production mechanism. Again, we find that in our analysis range, we are dominated by Compton production. We also reiterate the point that, like our previous work, hot massive stars are really efficient for axion production, particularly through the Compton production channel here. The second ingredient is, of course, our axion to photon conversion probabilities, which use magnetic field models which we take from the illustrious TNG simulations, as in our previous work. They end up dominating the uncertainties in our analysis. Both the axion luminosity and the conversion probabilities are folded in to our analysis, where we compare our signal model to NuSTAR data. And then from there, in the absence of an axion signal, one can derive 95% upper limits on the couplings with standard frequentist techniques. So, ultimately, with archival NuSTAR data toward our galaxies, we find no evidence for axions and instead set robust constraints on the combined axion-electron axion-photon coupling. Here we illustrate the parameter space of coupling versus axion mass for ultralight axions, and show that our 95% upper limits on the axion-electron axion-photon coupling from this work lead in the region below around 10 to the minus 10 eV in axion mass, primarily with M82. To be exact, we constrain this coupling combination to have a 95% upper limit of around 8.3 times 10 to the minus 27 inverse GeV. In conclusion, in this work we derive leading constraints on the combined axion-electron axion-photon coupling from X-ray observations of the stellar populations of M82, M87, and M31. This is yet another example for how one can use full-scale galaxy populations of stars to constrain and probe axions, and is again highly complementary to previous searches. In ongoing work, we're exploring how this powerful idea can be extended even more to other axion physics, like exploring axion-nucleon couplings or heavy axions. Thanks for listening, and we hope you check out our paper.